When Sarah twisted the key in the safe, her hands trembled as 30 years of marriage rested on the edge of revelation. What she discovered inside shattered her entire world in an instant. Sarah's heart pounded as she finally found her husband's hidden safe. She had known about its existence for years, hinted at through whispers and casual slips during heated conversations, but seeing it now, this steel box of secrets, made the reality inescapable. "It's just a safe," Sarah, her husband, Thomas, had laughed off her inquiries in the past, always quick to dismiss her with a wave of his hand. But Sarah knew better than to ignore her instincts. Now, faced with the tangible evidence of her suspicions, she steeled herself for what she might find. When Sarah twisted the key, her mind raced with possibilities. What could be so important to hide all these years? Old financial documents? Letters from an old flame? But as the door creaked open, the truth was far darker than she ever imagined. Inside, beneath mundane paperwork and yellowed receipts, was a small, unassuming photograph of a child she didn't recognize. A chill ran down her spine as she realized, this wasn't just any child, it was someone who bore an uncanny resemblance to her husband. Her world blurred as she clutched the photograph, her fingers gripping its edges like a lifeline. Who was this boy? Where did he fit into the life she had meticulously crafted with Thomas? Every shared moment and whispered secret in their marriage felt tainted now, like a facade painted over a hidden truth. She needed answers and only Thomas held them. Later that evening, Sarah sat across from Thomas at their dinner table, the photograph concealed within the folds of her blouse. Her mind swirled with questions, yet she felt eerily calm, a settling certainty that this was a crucial step she had to take. "Thomas," she started, her voice steady but firm, "do you remember that safe you always joked about?" Thomas looked up from his plate, surprise flickering across his face. "The safe? What about it?" Sarah's eyes bore into his, searching for any sign of the truth. "I opened it today." There was a pause, a loaded silence heavy with unsaid words. Thomas's fork clattered against his plate, his eyes widening then narrowing, an unreadable expression crossing his features. "You opened it," he echoed, his tone caught between disbelief and concern. "I found something, Thomas," she continued, pulling the photograph from her blouse. She slid it across the table, her hand steady. "Do you want to tell me who this is?" Thomas stared at the photo, his complexion paling, words caught in his throat. This was it, the moment Sarah had both dreaded and anticipated. She watched as his defenses crumbled, as the mask he wore slipped, leaving the truth exposed. Facing the man she thought she knew, Sarah prepared herself for the confrontation. Her pulse raced as she met Thomas's gaze, searching for the truth in his familiar eyes. Here, in the living room that had seen decades of laughter and tears, she stood on the precipice of a revelation that could either shatter or rebuild her world. Thomas's gaze remained fixed on the photograph as if it were a ghost from his past, come to haunt him in the most inopportune moment. He opened his mouth, but no words came out, a dry whisper caught in his throat, suffocated by years of silence and secrets. "Sarah, he began, his voice cracking under the weight of his confession. The room seemed to hold its breath, the air tense with unsaid truths. "You what, Thomas?" Sarah pressed, a strange calm overtaking her. Inside, her emotions were a roiling storm, each wave crashing against the veneer of composure she maintained. "Please, just tell me the truth." His eyes were pleading, a desperate glint of regret mixed with an old sorrow. "That boy," he finally managed, "he's my son." The words fell from his lips like stones, heavy and final. Sarah's heart clenched painfully as the implications sank in, the image of the boy, Thomas's son, burned into her mind. A son she never knew, a life lived parallel to theirs, yet hidden away like an unwanted secret. "Your son," Sarah repeated numbly, the words foreign on her tongue. "How could you hide this from me? From us?" Thomas ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration mingled with self-reproach. "It happened before we met. I was young, foolish. I thought I could just leave it all behind. Sarah sat back, her chair creaking softly in the silence that followed. She thought of their children, the life they had built together, seemingly perfect. Yet, beneath it all, there was this other life Thomas had kept separate, like a chapter torn from their shared story. Does he know? Does he know you? Sarah's voice was softer now, tinged with a sadness that mirrored the tears threatening to spill from her eyes. Thomas shook his head, his expression one of deep regret. I haven't seen him since he was a baby. His mother, she didn't want me in the picture. And I respected that. But I never stopped thinking about him. How old is he now? Sarah asked quietly, the dull throb of betrayal beginning to make room for a deeper understanding of the man she had lived with for so long. 33, Thomas replied, his voice barely above a whisper. His name is Michael. 33 years. An entire lifetime lived in the shadows, unaware of a father's presence, a father who had loved him from afar but never dared to reach out. The realization struck Sarah with an acute sadness, the years of lost time stretching before her with unforgiving clarity. Why didn't you tell me, Thomas? Her question was not just about the past, it was about the fragility of trust, the vulnerability that comes with love. I was afraid, he admitted, tears glistening in his eyes. Afraid of losing you, of what you might think of me. I thought I could keep the parts of my past buried, but I was wrong. So wrong. The truth lay between them now, exposed and raw, like a wound newly torn open. There was pain in it, yes, but also a flicker of something else, determination, perhaps, or the first glint of healing. Sarah, Thomas pleaded softly, reaching out to her. I know I've hurt you. And nothing I say can change that. But I need you to know that I love you. I've always loved you. She looked at his outstretched hand, the hand that had been her comfort and strength for decades, her heart aching at the thought of losing what they had shared. Yet, she knew this wasn't just about them anymore. This was about Michael too, a son who needed to be acknowledged, a piece of their puzzle that finally had to be placed. Thomas, this isn't just about us, Sarah said, voice steadier now, resolute. You have a chance to know your son. To be the father you never were. But you need to do it honestly, openly. His shoulders sagged in relief, a new determination lighting his features. Will you help me, Sarah? I don't want to do this alone. She hesitated, the scars of betrayal still fresh and aching, but then she nodded, a small but significant movement. We'll do this together, she whispered, her heart swelling with the hope that maybe, just maybe, the truth could set them free. As the first evening light cast soft shadows across the room, Sarah and Thomas sat side by side, ready to face the past and forge a new future. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be more revelations, more hurdles to overcome. But there was strength in their unity, a strength born from honesty and the promise of redemption. For the first time in a long time, Sarah allowed herself to hope that their story could be rewritten, one word of truth at a time. And in the righting of past wrongs, she hoped to find not only forgiveness for Thomas but also a deeper understanding of love's true power to heal and to change. The following morning dawned overcast, a fitting backdrop for the tumultuous emotions swirling within Sarah. Despite the previous night's revelations, she found herself replaying each word, each expression, in her mind. Thomas's confession, the existence of Michael, and the new path that lay before them seemed almost surreal in the cold light of day. Sitting at the kitchen table, Sarah wrapped her hands around a mug of cooling tea, staring into its depths as if seeking answers. How would she integrate this new reality into the life she had known? How would her children react? These questions hovered unanswered, leaving an unsettled knot in her stomach. Thomas entered the room quietly, his presence a gentle nudge against her thoughts. His eyes met hers, filled with gratitude and determination, a silent reassurance that they were facing this together. Morning, he said softly, taking a seat across from her. Have you thought about how we should reach out to Michael? Sarah nodded, setting her mug down with a deliberate calmness. We should start with a letter, she suggested, her voice thoughtful yet firm. Something personal, but not overwhelming. He deserves to hear the truth from you, in your own words. Thomas considered this, nodding slowly as the weight of the task settled over him. You're right, he agreed. It needs to come from me. I owe him that much. With a plan set in motion, Sarah and Thomas spent the next few days crafting a letter that conveyed not only the truth but also the deep desire to know Michael and include him in their lives. It was an exercise in vulnerability, each word chosen with care, a testament to the years lost and the promise of new beginnings. As they sealed the envelope, Sarah felt a small seed of hope take root. Whatever happened next, they had taken the first step toward healing a wound that had festered for too long. The days that followed were marked by an anxious but hopeful anticipation. Sarah and Thomas awaited Michael's response, each phone call sparking a flutter of nerves, each day stretching into what felt like an eternity. Finally, one crisp afternoon, the phone rang, its shrill tones slicing through the quiet like a herald of change. Thomas answered, his voice tentative as he recognized the voice on the other end. Yes, this is Thomas, he said, his expression shifting from cautious to relieved. Michael. I'm so glad you called. Thank you for getting back to me. Sarah watched as Thomas's face transformed, an array of emotions playing out, relief, anxiety, joy. She knew this call was monumental, a step toward bridging years of silence. Her heart ached with both the fear of disruption and the hope of reconciliation. Their conversation was long and filled with tentative questions, shadowed by decades of absence. Thomas spoke with a gentle urgency, the love of a father finally given voice after years of dormancy. The connection was fragile but real, a tentative thread weaving their fractured histories together. After hanging up, Thomas turned to Sarah, his eyes wet with unshed tears. He reached for her, pulling her into an embrace that spoke more than words ever could. He wants to meet us, Thomas whispered, his voice thick with emotion. He wants to meet us, Sarah. That simple statement held the weight of 1,000 unspoken hopes. Sarah held Thomas tightly, her fears momentarily eclipsed by the joy of potential reunification. In the weeks that followed, preparations for the meeting occupied their thoughts and conversations. Their children, when informed, reacted with a mix of surprise and support, processing the news with a grace that mirrored their parents' resilience. The meeting was to take place in a cozy cafe halfway between their home and where Michael lived. On the morning of the encounter, Sarah felt a nervous excitement laced with trepidation. She and Thomas arrived early, their breaths visible in the chilly air as they sat in the car, gathering courage. Inside the cafe, the warmth enveloped them, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the chatter of patrons. Sarah scanned the room, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. When the door opened to reveal a man with familiar features, a blend of youth and Thomas's essence, she knew instantly it was Michael. He walked toward them, his expression a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Thomas rose to greet him, his movements careful as if navigating a delicate bridge. Michael, Thomas said, extending a hand that trembled slightly. His voice held a note of reverence, an almost sacred acknowledgement of the moment. Michael studied his father's face, and then Sarah's, before shaking Thomas's hand with a firm grip. It's good to finally meet you, he said, his voice steady but soft, a hint of cautious optimism in his words. As they sat down, Sarah smiled warmly, hoping to convey the acceptance and kindness she felt. Michael, we're so glad you're here, she said sincerely, willing her voice to mask the fluttering nerves beneath her calm exterior. The conversation began tentatively, each participant carefully navigating the unfamiliar terrain of new beginnings. They spoke of lighter topics first, Michael's work, his interests, before gradually delving into the more profound and challenging aspects of their shared histories. Thomas listened avidly, soaking in every detail of his son's life, every anecdote and revelation a treasure to be cherished. As the afternoon wore on, any remaining barriers slowly gave way to genuine connection. There was laughter, shared stories, and moments of reflection where words were unnecessary, their silence speaking volumes. When the time came to part, there was a lingering embrace between father and son, a promise made without words. Sarah watched, her heart full, as Thomas and Michael promised to meet again soon. She saw in their eyes the beginnings of something beautiful, courage to face the past, and an enduring hope for what the future might hold. As they left the cafe, the chill in the air seemed less biting, buoyed by the warmth of the connection made within. It was a step toward healing, toward integration of fractured histories, and Sarah knew that though challenges surely lay ahead, they had weathered the first storm with boundless resilience and a deepening love. As they drove back home, the soft hum of the car engine was a comforting backdrop to the reflections swirling in Sarah's mind. The meeting with Michael had been more than she had dared to hope for. There had been laughter, tentative but genuine, and moments of shared understanding that bridged the years of silence. It was a beginning, imperfect but filled with potential. Thomas glanced over at Sarah as they pulled into their driveway, his eyes searching hers for affirmation. She took his hand, squeezing it gently, letting him know that everything they had done had been worth it. They had faced their first hurdle together, and though the road ahead was uncertain, they were resolute in traversing it side by side. Over the following months, Michael became a presence in their lives, a thread weaving into the fabric of their daily routines. He visited regularly, initially for coffee dates and storytelling sessions, and gradually for more significant family gatherings. Each visit was a step toward solidifying the bond between father and son, and to Sarah's relief, Michael fit seamlessly into the dynamics of their family. Sarah found herself watching these interactions with a mixture of wonder and gratitude. She saw in Michael traces of Thomas, the same thoughtful instincts, the same dry humor, and it warmed her heart to witness the blossoming relationship. The awkwardness of their initial meeting gave way to camaraderie and laughter, healing the old wounds that secrecy had wrought. The unexpected joy of gaining a son was counterbalanced by moments of doubt and insecurity. Both Sarah and Thomas grappled with the what-ifs, those questions that haunted the quiet moments and whispered fears of time lost and choices made. But each confrontation with doubt was met with renewed determination, a steadfast commitment to the present and all it offered. One particularly poignant evening, as autumn leaves fluttered down around the backyard barbecue, marking the change of seasons, Sarah watched her children, grown now, interact with Michael, their banter and jokes punctuated by bursts of laughter. Thomas stood beside her, arm wrapped around her shoulders in a gesture of shared contentment and love. "Look at them," Thomas whispered, as though breaking the spell might dissipate the happiness. "I never imagined this would happen, that I'd be lucky enough to have them all here together." Sarah leaned into him, her heart full. "Life is strange like that," she replied softly. "Sometimes, the things you think will break you end up being the very foundation you need to build something stronger." Thomas kissed her temple, gratitude and love evident in every fiber of his being. "I want to tell them the whole truth, Sarah. About why I kept Michael a secret, and how my past decisions shaped our lives." Sarah nodded, understanding the importance of this gesture. "I think you're right. It's time they knew everything, all sides of the story." With the fire of honesty sparking change, Thomas gathered their children around, Michael included, ready to lay bare the burdens and regrets he had carried for too long. As he spoke, the gravity of his words was softened by the empathy and understanding that only family could provide. He spoke of youthful mistakes, fears that spiraled into secrets, and the courage it took to finally face them. Michael listened intently, absorbing the complexities of his father's journey with a maturity beyond his years. The stories clarified the fragments of his own past, lending context to the silent gaps that had lingered at the edges of his childhood memories. When Thomas finished, the silence that followed was profound, not heavy with judgment or resentment, but alive with understanding and acceptance. One by one, their children spoke, offering reassurances, kindness, and an eagerness to move forward together. The final voice was Michael's, steady and sure, resonating with the sincerity of newfound connection. "Thank you for telling me, Dad," he said, the words still novel but fitting effortlessly into their shared dialogue. "I'm grateful to be here with all of you. Grateful for this chance to understand and belong." As the evening waned and the stars emerged, their light dappled across the lawn, Sarah felt a deep, abiding peace settle within her. It was as if the scattered pieces of a long-forgotten puzzle were finally aligning, creating a picture of family that encompassed all its facets, flaws, strengths, and boundless love. Sarah realized that their journey, though fraught with challenges and unexpected detours, had led them to a place of profound connection. It was not the idyllic image of family she had fantasized about in her youth, but it was real, anchored in truth and a willingness to forgive and embrace. In the months that followed, the family continued to thrive, bolstered by the ties they had fought so hard to forge. Thomas's relationship with Michael grew deeper, filled with shared experiences and dreams for the future. And Sarah, ever the nurturer, found immense satisfaction in this expanded family, where love was the common thread binding them all. The story of their lives, once fragmented by secrets and distance, now unfolded with clarity and purpose. It was a testament to the power of honesty, the importance of facing one's truths, and the unparalleled strength found in a family willing to love through it all. As the seasons turned and new chapters unfolded, Sarah held her loved ones close, confident in the knowledge that they were stronger together, bound by a history reconciled and a future embraced. Together, they had rewritten their narrative, transforming past shadows into a tapestry vibrant with the colors of hope, redemption, and unwavering love.